Faulkner, is that our road, Faulkner?
York County Council meetings now in session. The Honorable Allison Love will give the invocation Pledge of Allegiance.
With my scratchy voice, I apologize for that. Dear Lord, we are gathered here tonight in common, but with different requests of you. Please hear our prayers in this moment of silence. Lord, we ask for your guidance and decisions we make for York County and all the people within. We ask for good judgment and common sense. We pray for the homeless and the hopeless. We pray for peace for our great country. We know you are always listening. We ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, okay, thanks. Our first order of business is oath of office. Will Walter, and I'm not going to say your last name, I'll probably mess it up. Powell. Oh, okay, well, easy enough. Just spelled differently. Yes, sir.
After I administer the oath, I'm going to have to make a few words to say. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I am duly qualified, according to the Constitution of this state, to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been appointed, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and of the United States. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your service.
Thank you for serving.
Let's see, we had two people to sign up for appearances. A third did not show. Remember now, you have up to 5 minutes maximum, and that's it. So after 5 minutes, I cut you off. So if you can do less, even better. But first person, Sarge Douglas. And be sure to give your name and address.
Okay, she's going to do it. Okay. My name is Sarge Douglas, and I live at 203-6 Ebenezer Road in Rock Hill, South Carolina. And tonight I'm here to talk about animal welfare. And it's a very important issue for a lot of people in this county on both sides of the issue. And I'm going to give a disclaimer that some of these pictures that you may see tonight may be a little disturbing to some. So if you have a weak stomach or there's children present and you don't want them to see them, some may be graphic to you, so please feel free to leave. I'm also going to play school teacher for a minute, and I'm going to ask each and every one of you, ladies and gentlemen of the council, to please put down your phones, don't open your mails, and don't look at your computers, but instead direct your attention to the screen, to the pictures. And as you're viewing the pictures, I'd like each and every one of you to look at them and think about your family members. Would you want your child, your grandchild, your sister, your brother, mother, father, grandparents to live like this? Rambo. My name is Rambo, and I was found by an angel who is a real estate agent. Quite by accident, she came upon me while getting lost showing a property. She thought I was dead until she approached me and I moved my head. This is me at the vet's office. I was rushed to Baxter Veterinary Office. You can just keep flipping. And I underwent many, many surgeries to save my life. And to this day, I don't have a mean bone in my body for what I suffered. According to Dr. Doyle from Baxter Veterinary Clinic, I was a bait dog. A bait dog, for those that don't know, is a dog that's non-aggressive, will not fight. So instead, they use them for bait. They tie them to fences or trees. They file their teeth down. Sometimes they remove their teeth so they can't harm the fighting dog. But I was dumped. I was dumped in the woods on top of 7 other dog carcasses. And the York County Sheriff's Department had indicated they thought it was what they call a dump site. I've gone through therapy, and I've now, $23,000 later, have been adopted by a family, and I have a bed to sleep on. I have a name. My name is Rambo. These are my brothers and sisters. My name is Nina. I'm called a white pit bull, although I'm not sure what I really am. I'm tied to this stake 24/7 since the day I was gotten. My owners told these ladies that came to help me that I'm pregnant. I cower when they came and approached me to bring me food or water or treats. And I live in a deplorable little house that has sunk into the ground about 6 to 8 inches, and the floor was rotting out. My collar's too tight. I can't hardly breathe because my collar's too tight and it's rubbing my neck raw. This is my doghouse. The storm of January 5th was coming. The bottom was rotting out. I wouldn't have been protected, but those ladies brought me this new doghouse, and that's where I lived for several days. The scars on my face are because there was another female chained on the property with me who broke her chain and attacked me and left the scars. What you're seeing now is Nina's death because animal control gave this individual 7 days to correct the problem. And again, China broke her chain and attacked Nina this time and killed her. My name is China. I'm the other unspayed female, chained to a tree below the hill of Nina. I broke my chain twice. The first time I attacked Nina, I didn't kill her, but I scarred her.
Ms. Douglas, your time's up, but I'm going to give you 1 more minute, okay?
Okay. I didn't get a new doghouse because the ladies didn't have it. There's another dog that lives with us on this property named Patches. And he got a new doghouse, but he's also got tumors hanging from his chest. And he's chained to a tree as well. The old doghouse, that's his new doghouse, and that's his chain. And these are all within a half a mile of this building. And that's the street.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it, Ms. Douglas. The next person is Laura Terry.
Referring my minutes to Sarge, because I've got laryngitis.
Oh, you just want to, sure, we can do that. I'll give you 4 more minutes.
Let's talk about numbers. In 2007 in York County, I don't know if any of you know this, but a spay and neuter shuttle was started by a group of rescuers that wanted to help reduce the overpopulation and the euthanasia that was going on at the animal shelter. To give you some numbers to put this into perspective, according to the Humane Society of the United States, 2.4 million adoptable dogs and cats, which is about 1 every 13 seconds, is killed in the United States because of overpopulation. To break this down even further, each one of us would have to have over 420 animals to live in our home in order to stop the euthanasia at the animal shelters. I know I can't handle 420. And it was said by Dr. Jeff Young, a veterinarian, we cannot adopt, warehouse, or rescue our way out of dog and cat overpopulation. The monthly spay and neuter shuttle takes about 35 animals every month. And for the length of time they've been doing it, they've spayed or neutered approximately 550 or more animals just in York County. And they continue to do it every month, and it's all based on volunteers. The money comes in from grants, local companies that donate to us, and other rescues that send monies to donate to us. In 2012, York County Animal Control had given us some brochures to hand out when we go out to the public and try and help them. We do community feeding, we give dog houses, we give hay and straw, and we also try and educate. We don't have any more of these pamphlets, and we've asked for them and we've not received them. There was also a pamphlet given out that we copied is Hot Weather Guide. It's absolutely wonderful for the summertime. Education is great if you have the tools to do it with, and if the people will be receptive. But what we found in York County, even though we've made numerous offers to a lot of the owners of the dogs that you saw tonight, they were refused because they're money dogs. I'll leave the word out that they actually used, but they're money to them. And so offering them education, offering them free spay and neuters, education only goes so far. We need to start taking action against the owners that are continuously breaking the laws. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item is a public hearing. Consider second reading, and we don't have anybody for the public, sorry, council. I didn't advise you. Public hearing, second reading and public hearing of case number 1620, request to rezone property from light industrial to BD3 at 801 Gold Hill Road in the Fort Mill community. Anybody here that wants to speak? You're for, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was going to say against, but we'll do for first. Anybody here for?
We are hoping there's no one against, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
My name is
John?
Mac McCarley.
Yes, sir.
My associate, Francie Cameron.
Welcome.
We're here for Sonic Automotive. This is a conforming rezoning to take the Fort Mill Ford property from an industrial zone to a more appropriate BD3 zone. It's simply to conform the zoning to the existing and longstanding use. Your staff is for it. Your planning commission voted 9 to nothing in favor of it. Francie and I would be glad to answer any questions you might have, sir.
And I don't think there's any. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Anybody else want to speak in favor? Anybody opposed? Do we have a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Do we have a new motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, consider second reading and public hearing, case number 1623, request to rezone property from AGC to RUD at 350 Cameron Road in the York community. Anybody here that's wanting to speak against? Anybody here wants to speak in favor? Got a motion to close public hearing?
Move to close.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Do we have a new motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Next item, Cummings. Yes, sir, Jim. To present a construction update.
Good evening. This won't be a construction update. I just wanted to give a brief timeline where we are based on what we presented 2 weeks ago. We are tracking on that schedule that was presented. We are anticipating bidding the Phase 1 early site advertising this Friday. And this is for the family court. That's per the schedule that we presented last week. There are a couple items that we've got to, a couple of hurdles. We'll be at Planning Commission in Rock Hill tomorrow. The items that they may have, we will be addressing in addendum. So they'll be tracking kind of parallel. So any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
Questions?
Are we expecting items?
Yeah.
Well, the drawings were not 100% drawings, so they were more of 95, 90% drawings, which is not untypical, but prefer to be 100% construction documents stamped, ready to go. These were not, so we do anticipate some comments, but more than likely it'll be items that would have been picked up anyway.
Ms. Cox?
I know that this is fluid, it sounds like, but what is the projected completion date for the family court? Have you,
So I don't have that off the top of my head, but throwing a dart, we are, I think it's September of 18.
okay,
But I will get that to you. I did not bring my management schedule. It is, the schedule that was presented 2 weeks ago is still current.
okay, thanks.
Anybody?
So-
Mr. Roddey?
Just to be, so that entire complex that we're looking at doing with the family court on Heckle, slated for September?
So that's a multi-phase project, and so what we've done, we're moving forward with Phase 1. Phase 1 is just the early site, the grading, stormwater, utilities. And so we're releasing that while they complete all the construction documents for the building. Then we'll release the building. Based on where we are now, we're still, to use Ms. Cox's term, fluid on the Heckle redesign. So we're probably going to part that out and bid it even further separately so that so that we can move forward with the Phase 2 of the building package of the family court. Does that answer your question?
I don't know if you were asking about the Heckle complex, the old part. Were you asking that as part of it or just family court?
With the family court,
Okay.
just family court.
Mr. Johnson?
Curious, why weren't the plans 100% complete? Are they normally?
I gotta guess.
Why they were not complete. They should have been complete. I don't want to make excuses for
Normally,
the
we turn them
designer.
they're 100%.
It's not uncommon for agency submittal to be less than 100% complete.
To knowingly submit them less than 100% complete.
It's not uncommon, but normally they're a little more
Well,
complete.
he won't say this, especially in a place with Rock Hill, when you have to have a 90-day lead time before the meeting comes up. There's a whole lot of last-minute plannings that go in between that deadline to submit your plan and when it happens. I know we complain about having to turn our stuff around in 4 days, but that's one way that we're responsive. Now, I think our planning commission has a longer deadline than we do, but
Well,
Rock Hill deadline,
The county-
when I left, it was 90 days. It might be worse now.
You
we-
knew that Chad served on the planning commission, right?
well,
I'm
now.
not joking. I mean, he knows what he's talking about.
Right. But we don't anticipate anything substantial. Again, the things that may come up should be addressed in addenda form, which would not impact the cost of the project.
Well, I guess my question is this something we should be concerned that in-house, we didn't do what we should have done, our architect didn't do something? Assuming that, in a perfect world, we'd have had it 100%, where was the
Well,
ink in the armor that didn't get us 100%?
Okay, I don't want to make excuses for anyone, and I don't want to speak on their behalf, but I've been talking about this wave of construction. Well, prior to that wave of construction is a wave of design, and there's limited resources in the sub-market and construction market as well as in the designer market. And we have a local designer that's handling the civil component, and they seem to be overwhelmed with the amount of work they have.
And is that because we have given them a whole bunch of work?
We haven't given them anything, so they contract directly with the architect, and that's part of their team. I'm working with the same firm with other clients, and we're experiencing some of the fantastic firm. They're a fantastic firm, but
I'm not looking to bash this fantastic firm, but I sure would like our contractors to know that we don't want subs used that can't perform on time.
Understand. Point taken.
And just you know what I'm going to say. We got to move the dirt. I mean, I don't want to see the government bureaucracy, and that's why we hired you, because you're excellent at what you do. You've proven that over and over again. And we got to see results. We got to move it forward. We can't be the ones at the tail end, sorry, they didn't get in time.
Understand.
In terms of getting the subs and the contractors and stuff.
And that wave is coming, and we're looking forward to getting some traction on these projects.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Next item, council to consider amending and second reading of an ordinance to amend the code of the County of York, South Carolina, Section 31.04, enforcement officers appointed and commissioned in its entirety in order to comply with revisions to state law and accurately reflect duties of code enforcement and animal control officers, and to provide for other matters related thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the,
We have the.
Yes, sir,
the
Mr.
Public hearing
Williams.
coming up. We're not gonna have a public hearing, okay?
question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, consider second reading of an ordinance to amend Section 31.08, alarm systems of the York County Code of Ordinances so that the county statement of policy, definitions, registration provisions, and other subsections therein reflect changes in alarm system technology and otherwise conform to county process and reporting practice, and to provide for other matters related thereto.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, consider second reading of an ordinance to amend Section 31.09, uniform system for road naming and property numbering of the York County Code of Ordinances in order to conform the section to current county practice, to designate areas of responsibility in the naming and numbering process, and to provide for other matters related thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, consider second reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 57, Streets and Roads of the York County Code of Ordinances so that Sections 57.15, Factual Findings, 57.16, Procedures for assigning names in new subdivisions or developments, 57.17, Procedure for processing requests by individual property owner for naming a street or road, 57.18, request by interested party to change the name of a street or road, 57.19, approval of names, renamed 57.20, change of name upon application by Planning Department or Department of Public Safety Communications, and 57.21, assigning numbers conform to county practice and statutory requirements, and to provide for other matters related thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Yes, sir, Mr.
I
Winkler.
just actually have more of a question, I guess, for Audra. Had a call today from a constituent about renaming a road, and I told them we were in the process of, streamlining, updating, that kind of thing. But if someone does have that question, I told them I thought they just need to call planning. Is that the best way to?
That's fine. We can direct them to the right place. Addressing takes lead, but it comes over to planning at some point in the process.
Thank you.
Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Next item, consider second reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 36, Civil Defense and Emergency Management of the York County Code of Ordinances so that Sections 36.05, Duties and Powers, Emergency Management, and 36.27, Services and Functions of Department of Public Safety Communications, accurately set out the responsibilities of each respective county department, and to provide for other matters related thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider the financial year 2017-2018 budget calendar.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider approving a letter to the Federal Transit Administration on behalf of the city of Rock Hill.
Move to deny.
Second.
Discussion.
Why?
I talked to two council members about how fast will the bus go, how many people will sit on the bus, what kind of maintenance issues, how are you going to take care of it, not charging any fees for riders. Could not get clear answers from neither one of them, and it just seems to me that this is not well thought out. Just speaking for me, I'm just answering for me, but if we're going to talk about the taxpayers' money, even though if it's indirectly, it's still, we're approving the way that's being done. I just don't think the questions have been answered, and it's not well planned out, to be blunt about it. So that's where I'm coming from. Mr. Roddey.
Oh, I'll just throw in, of course, I met with the city manager, I met with Doug Eccles, also the mayor, and part of those discussions were counting on the county or relying on the county also to have a financial stake into all this. And I don't think, we're not in any position right now to commit any funds. They haven't officially asked us for any, but just knowing part of the success of that plan that they have will come through us for some kind of financial resources. So I don't know if I'll be willing to, if we send a letter saying we support it, then when the time comes, they ask for some funding, and we don't do it, it looks like we kind of baited the hook and took it back off, so to speak. So I'm not going to support it.
Yes, sir, Mr. Williams.
Well, I guess the same, I looked at it, and I guess I disagree. I don't see it as baiting the hook and taking it. We send the letter to me, I guess, is one thing, and I support it. I watched the council meetings where they talked about it. It is a fee-free bus to move people around the city of Rock Hill. When you said 2 council members, you mean 2 Rock Hill city council members?
Yes.
Okay. Because there were definitely some questions going on there. But
Now-
that's one thing that I wanted to make clear is that this is not asking for financial support at this time. They may or may not. Well, that's a completely different conversation. I don't have a problem supporting them in their quest, but writing a letter to say that we agree to fund it is a completely different thing. But I don't have a problem with the letter.
And I don't want to be misleading. They didn't say you don't need to approve this. They just could not answer any questions. So it was obvious to me it hadn't been thought out yet. So I'm not willing to give any taxpayer funds just that free ride. Question on the motions. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
No.
Next item, council to consider approving a request for an extension of time for applying for an agricultural use exemption for 3 tracts of land situated on Armstrong Ford Road, Rock Hill, and consisting of approximately 71 acres with tax map numbers 4310000039, Tract 2B, 4310000040, Tract 2C, 4310000020, Tract 2A, pursuant to South Carolina Code of ANN at Section 12, 43203A.
Move to approve.
Second. Discussion.
I just have one.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Cox.
Can I find, how was this put on the agenda, and was this a recommendation from our staff?
This was a request from me. I was contacted by the constituents and the attorney who made the Scribner's error. And the situation was explained, and so then I reached out to the county attorney and county staff to ask how it could be put before us to help this constituent. And they're not a constituent. I believe this Armstrong Road, Rock Hill, is not my district per se, but I just happen to know the attorney. And so they reached out to me just from prior relationships.
The only question I have was if county staff approve that and they're comfortable with it, and it doesn't cause us any other issues. Typically, we have the recommendation, recommended and approved.
Yeah, that's the same question. That's the same question I have. I guess I can tell you're trying to answer that with your face. That's the same question I have, and actually asked it on Friday. And we got an email, I guess, a couple hours before the meeting that was not very, starting to feel like my daddy. I got to make up different words. Didn't give me a warm and fuzzy, I guess, is the better thing. But yeah, I'm curious about staff's recommendation too, because I definitely don't want to. I mean, I hate when a situation causes problem to one, but I don't want to set a precedent that the county, that we have to live with forever and ever and ever.
And I agree, I mean, precedent, but I'm
Very good.
Excuse me. Good evening.
Be sure to give your name and address.
Yes. I'm Rob Weaver. I'm the tax assessor here for York County. My concern is creating a precedent for others to open up the floodgates for other applications. I know one of the reasons, there were 2 reasons given for a late file. The second reason was that they tried to call or come in our office on January the 16th, which was Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, but actually the last day to file without file timely is the January the 17th, the next following day. So if they had come in our office on January the 17th, Tuesday, they could have filed timely, no problem. And our applications are online. We have an email set up specifically for taxpayers to send those applications to us. So that would be my only concern, is set a precedent, but I'm fine with either decision that you make.
So if we got another one of these in a month, then you're going to put your foot down, right?
And if, I believe the landowners and the attorney are here if anyone has questions directly for them, but I know they came, so.
This is, and I just want the
Mr.
administration to
Johnson.
answer this. This is just truly a scrivener's error that created an issue, and now we're simply going back and correcting that Scrivener's error.
But it wasn't ours.
And I agree
That was the
with
representation, yes.
Our Scrivener's error, but this is simply a Scrivener's error that is, we're fixing what should have been.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would like to, if I can do this, amend my own motion to give them 30 days to correct this and to get the taxes paid. I don't want this to be an unlimited, we extend this deadline and they can come in next year or something. I think 30 days is reasonable for them to have time to come in and get this built.
So we have a-
This request to change taxes.
So we have an amended motion. Who did the second?
No, yeah, as long as
Who
whoever
did the second? I forgot.
did the second doesn't have a problem with it.
Me?
Oh, you did?
Oh, I didn't remember I did.
Well,
30
they're pointing at
days?
you.
Yeah, 30 days.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'll accept it then.
Any further discussion? Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Next item. Next item, consider first reading by title only of an ordinance amending Chapter 93 in its entirety so that it reflects the recently adopted name change from York County Board of Disabilities and Special Needs to Max Abilities of York County, so that the code sections and definitions therein conform to this change in the mission statement for the local agency and to provide for other matters related thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
I guess I don't need to say.
Do we have any discussion? Any questions?
I'm gonna throw this out there. I know that there's gonna be some kind of, don't necessarily like the name change. It's not our place to make that name change. It was their place. And certainly, I think our ordinances should match whatever name this group chooses to call itself. If they don't, then we have a potential conflict that will cause a host of issues at a later date. This is simply cleaning up an ordinance as if the legislature changed the law. That's all this is. And so I hope, this is a procedural vote. So I encourage everyone to go forward.
Any other comments?
No questions?
No, we don't have any
Okay,
questions.
thank you.
I tell you, this just kind of flies all over me. I appreciate the legal logic and everything, and I've not talked to anybody about it. I'm just going to leave it to be a personal thing for me, but I just see this as just a PC thing, but I guess maybe I do have a question, so if you want to address that.
My name is Mary Poole, and I'm the York County Board of Disabilities and Special Needs Executive Director. And it's not just a PC thing.
Not just. Did you say not just?
No, it's not even anywhere near. Our mission statement is to maximize abilities for people with special needs in York County. And we have shortened that mission statement from a paragraph and a half, so our staff understands what we're truly out there to do. We're not worried about the individual's disability. We're trying to give them a life. Our folks have intellectual disabilities, autism, and head and spinal cord injury. So it's extremely important to us to show folks that with the abilities they have, we want to maximize what they can do with those. So it's not PC. It's to have in your head and in your heart every day that we're here to maximize abilities. And on top of that, I'm a parent of 5 individuals with Down syndrome. And I just came from the hospital because my youngest just had heart surgery. I don't look at those kids as disabled. I look at it as what can they do? They do things other children do. They clear the table, they load the dishwasher, they make their beds. I try to maximize their abilities every day. And that's what our staff needs to do. So no, sir, it is not PC.
Do you think people that need these services will recognize to look under that?
Yes, sir,
Max
because
abilities?
we have been
Of course,
already,
obviously, most of them, I think they got to look under disability.
we have been using this name as a brand name probably for the last year and a half, just testing it out to see how people go for it. And it's very positive, especially when you're meeting a parent for the first time who just got news they have a child that was born with a disability. To come up to them and say, yes, we're the York County Board of Disabilities and Special Needs is kind of tough to that parent. So we just go up there and say, we're Max Abilities. It's easier for them to remember, it's easier for them to find on the web, and it's much easier to sign on each piece of paper that we have. But it is our living mission statement, and it's nice where we can take a mission statement and bring it down to one word. And I think it's kind of unique. It's not pretentious. It is what we do. It's very descriptive.
Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Roddey.
I was just gonna make a comment. After hearing your passion for this and visually getting the concept, to me, it's a more positive.
It is.
Versus a negative connotation. And I know probably hearing disabilities throughout the community, when you say it and speak it, it kind of takes something away from the individual when they're saying, I have a disability, or you saying disabilities with any circumstance.
Yes, sir.
I understand your desire to say, we're here to maximize what the individual can do and achieve, because they do feel the same as other children.
Mm-hmm.
They just have a situation that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So, I applaud, and I can see the positive connotation with it versus the negative stigma that the community and others may place on the services, on the individuals. So to me, it has a positive ring
It's an evolution of a paradigm. We started with the word imbecile long time ago. We went to mental retardation. We changed that. That's one of the reasons you changed the name back in '93. And now we're changing it again because we want to move ahead with a positive statement, not a negative. There's no reason it is what it is. You have an intellectual disability. If you have an IQ of 40, you have an IQ of 40. We know that. Now what can we do with it? Where can we go? Who can you be when you grow up? That's the idea that we're trying to put forth.
Well,
Didn't I meet you over the summer?
Yes, sir.
I
You
didn't
still
know-
owe me a board member.
I had one for you.
Yes. Good.
well, you make a persuasive argument. So
Thank you, sir.
You won me over.
Okay.
Any other questions? Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, consider first reading by title only of an ordinance to amend sections 155.625 C, D, and E of the York County Code of Ordinances pertaining to the Bethel Rural Fire District, to dissolve the Board of Rural Fire Control for Bethel Rural Fire District, to operate Bethel Rural Fire District as an administrative division of York County, to transfer all authority, responsibilities, and duties held or undertaken by the Board of Rural Fire Control for Bethel Rural Fire District to an administrative division of York County pursuant to South Carolina Code 4930, including but not limited to the authority to make personnel decisions and to manage collection and distribution of all funds affecting fire service within Bethel Rural Fire District, regardless of source, and to provide for other matters related thereto. First reading by title only.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Yes, sir, Mr. Williams.
I guess the first thing I want to make clear, I think the existing board members that we have, it was discussed before, we need to thank them. I don't think they didn't set out to do anything bad, nobody set out to do anything bad. I think in this particular case, the council has, everybody has jobs to do, and maybe we should have done ours quicker, but at any rate, we're trying to do it now. But this is not about the people that are on the board, at least not for me. Everybody was trying to do what was in the best interest. Things just got have gotten a little out of hand, and we can't wait any longer to step in. That's how I see it. But I just want to make the point that the members of that board deserve thanks, and nothing else.
Well, that's a good point. Any other? No? Nobody? Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
excuse
sir,
me,
I'm
sorry to
sorry.
interrupt. We ask that you refer that to the Committee on Public Safety, please, for consultation with special counsel to develop the full ordinance and report back to council.
So be it.
Thank you.
Defer to that committee. Council to consider the creation of part-time records management clerks in the sheriff's office.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider and accept, if awarded, a grant in the amount of $450,000 per year for 3 years for the sheriff's office for 2 positions.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
This was.
Yes, Mr.
discussed-
Johnson.
This was discussed today in Finance and Operations. These positions are 100% funded by the grants, the 3-year grants, and we discussed how this would be placed in the budget so that we would all be able to, it'd be seen. We also had a discussion that we are asking finance director to start showing us kind of an overall, how much is coming due in any given year potentially? How much all of a sudden could just show up randomly in, year 2019 that are on grants? Is that $1 million? Is it $2 million? What's that liability that we're kind of constantly carrying? But otherwise, I believe the administration's view, and I'm gonna quote, was a no-brainer. So that this is free money, so.
And I think Sheriff may be able to clear it up, but I want to say, and I'm sorry, Chairman, I didn't mean to just jump in there.
No, you're good.
As we talked about it in the committee today, as I said, this reads it's $450,000 per year, but it's actually, that is the maximum for the 3-year period, I believe.
That is correct, that's what I was going to.
It's not a per year grant, that's the maximum.
It's a cumulative of $450,000 over 3 years, it's not renewable every year for $450,000. It's a 100% match.
Thanks, sir. Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider and accept if awarded the DHEC Midlands Coalition grant in the amount of $6,000 for the purchase of 2 morphodite systems? Did I say that right? Sir?
Morpho-ident.
Yeah, that one.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item. Consider first reading case number 1625, request to rezone property from BD2 to BD1 at Maxwell Mill Road in the Fort Mill community.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
I'm gonna.
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
I would ask, my planning commission member voted against this. She wanted to have some conditions placed on it. I would ask planning to take a look at this and see if some of those can be implemented. I also want to take this opportunity. I'm disappointed in the planning commission in not allowing my member to speak that evening and say what she felt should be the conditions. She was not acknowledged, and certainly I was not present. I'm telling you what has been relayed to me. She was not acknowledged and given the opportunity to voice her concerns in something that was actually on a rezoning in her district. I certainly support this rezoning. This is a good rezoning, but those conditions should have been allowed to have been read. And I hope that it was a misunderstanding, but I would ask that the Planning Commission make sure that its members have an opportunity to be heard at their meetings.
Yeah, whether it's in their district or not.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, consider first reading case number 1626, request for a major amendment to the Regent Park Plan Development, Regent Parkway in the Fort Mill community.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Excuse me,
Well,
there are conditions with this?
Yeah,
Are the
subject to the
conditions included?
Move to approve subject to the conditions.
Under number 2.
Okay. And do we need to read it into the record, Audra?
Only 3 of them.
Yes, please, Mr. Johnson. I just wanted to see you do that with your glasses.
Are we,
Everybody does.
Yeah.
I'll do it in slow motion. The conditions are, staff recommends limiting the ID uses to those permitted in zoning code, section 155.161J, manufacturing services, including establishments engaged in building, streets, section 1, building, street, water, sewer, and bridge construction, repair, and/or demolition.
Excuse me, Mr. Johnson. The Planning Commission actually modified condition number 1, so I believe you want to
Gotcha.
read
I'm reading
that.
from the wrong list.
Yes,
Sorry.
thank you.
All right, let me amend that then. Move to approve with the following conditions. The ID uses on the subject property are limited to those permitted in zoning code section 155.161J, manufacturing services, including establishments engaged in subsection 1, building, street, water, sewer, and bridge construction and repair, but not demolition, subsection 7, heavy construction, and/or subsection 11, paving and earth-moving operations. 2, many storage buildings and the storage of RVs and boats is acceptable. 3, the applicant files for the appropriate floodplain permits map revision request to FEMA for the subject tax parcels within 60 days of final approval of the PD amendment. And 4, after receipt of the appropriate floodplain permit map revision request, the property owner applicant shall submit a completed formal site plan application and plat recombination for the subject parcels within 45 days and receive commercial site plan and plat recombination approval no more than 90 days from the date of submittal of the formal site plan And 5, the 20-foot buffer required for a major roadway shall be required for this site.
Any other comments, questions?
question.
Yes, Ms. Cox.
The planning commission obviously made changes to what staff was proposing. And I can make out some of those differences, but is there something here that concerns staff at all? I mean, I noticed that the mini storage buildings was something that was not included in the recommendations from staff.
No, staff is okay with the modifications planning commission made.
Any other comments, questions?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Ms.
So my question,
Well-
having been a ZBA member, is this area more residential, or is this fitting? I mean, without me driving over there and looking at this or seeing something I'm used to seeing up, in a presentation, the storage units and the storage of RVs and boats, if it's mostly residential, I certainly wouldn't want to look at that if I lived there.
This is part of a plan development that was started years ago. This area was actually reserved for a convenience center, so they would have been looking at a convenience center, and the county no longer requires it, so it is being converted over to the industrial use.
What? No, sir.
There'll be a public hearing. There will be a public hearing.
Uh,
Yeah, there'll be a public hearing.
okay.
If you-
Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, consider first reading case number 1627, rezoned from UD to RD1 at 219 Ward Drive in the Rock Hill community.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, council discuss and approve a council-initiated rezoning from the UD zoning district to the RC2 district for property located at 1055 Johnson Street in the Clover Community Tax Map number 36300000057. Just to clarify, if it wasn't in the packet, I don't know if the clarification was.
No.
But the clarification is, I got a state representative calling me about something that happens a lot in, like, your district, where they give part of their land to a family member, and they want to build a house on that land with their 5 acres, and they got 1 acre, there you go, you can build your house. And there was some, with the zoning changes, this kind of got lost in the perplexion of the rezoning. Staff was, well, I don't want to speak for staff, but Audrey, you correct me if I say anything out of line, but staff was more than good with this and was glad it was being done, but it has to be done this way, so. That's pretty much the gist of it. Yes, sir.
The other thing I think that's positive is it gets rid of some UD zoning. And we've done it, we did this earlier, we do it very rarely, but we've done it in the last couple of them. But I'm assuming that this applicant they're not asking us to waive the fees, they're willing to pay the fees and.
Well, that's
all
the
that,
next.
Which is the next motion.
Right.
But, yeah.
Okay. Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Was there a motion?
No, it's just.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did clarification, I got ahead of myself. Thank you, sir, I appreciate that. We need a motion.
Move to
Motion
approve. I'll second.
Discussion, any further discussion? Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, council,
I
this
believe
is,
you
So
could
what
just
about
take a
the-
motion on this one, if you'd like. I would move that I would move that we designate Daniel H. Moses as the responsible party for the application fees.
and here, need a second.
Second.
And Audrey, just I've already asked you, but the council wasn't sitting here when I asked you. This is pretty much standard. This is the way we normally handle it.
Yes, it is.
Okay. But you have to go through this just to follow all the i's and t's crossed. Any further discussion? There being none, question on the motion, all those in favor say, we did have a second. Now I'm paranoid I'm getting ahead. Yeah. Okay. Okay, good. Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, consider first reading case number 1704, tax map number 36300000057, request for zoning property from UD to RC2 at 1055 Johnson Street in the Clover community, which I believe is
Yeah.
the same one. Need a
Move to
motion?
approve.
Need a second? Discussion?
Yeah, now we know what we're gonna do and who's gonna pay for it. Now we can do it.
All right, question on the motion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider first reading of an ordinance to amend the code of the County of York, South Carolina, Chapter 151 entitled Floodplain Management, Section 151.04, lands to which this chapter applies, Section 151 1.05 definitions, Section 151.22 designation of party responsible for biennial report, Section 151.23 development permit certification requirements, subsections A, 1, and through 3, Section 151.24 duties and responsibilities of the local administrator, subsections E and S1, Section 151.35 general standards, Section 151.36 specific standards, subsections D, G, J, K, and M, Section 151.37 standards for streams without established base flood elevations and or floodways, subsection D, in order to update certain provisions of the York County Floodplain Management Code based on amendments to the South Carolina Model Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance as modified and adopted by the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources for mandatory enforcement by all jurisdictions within the state of South Carolina, to provide for a public hearing and to provide for other matters related thereto. And I believe Ms. Audra wants to say something first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For council's information, we do have one change that will need to be made between first reading and second reading. Section 151.37, subsection D, it's showing the entire paragraph 3 is being deleted. That is not correct. We will change it. The following will stay: hydrologic and hydraulic calculations, perform hydrologic, there we go, and hydraulic calculations to determine BFEs using FEMA-approved methods and software will remain. Everything else will be deleted.
So you want the motion to include that?
I believe if I say move to approve with changes to come at second reading would suffice, as Audra just listed, would suffice that.
Yes, thank you.
Discussion. Question?
The only other thing I'd like to say is this ordinance was presented in a red line version, which when possible, I really appreciate when you can do that because we can look at where we were and where we're going all at the same time without having to go back and forth. So I really appreciate when that's possible.
Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider approval of DP3 Architects Ltd. contract in a not-to-exceed amount of $117,250 for addition and renovations of the Clover and Fort Mill Magistrate facilities.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider approval of the revised language to the Michael Baker International Engineering contract and approval to a not-to-exceed amount of $128,711, which includes a 10% contingency for studying and providing a preliminary engineering report for the Heritage Drainage Sewer Basin.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, council to discuss pennies for utility relocation policy, i.e. what we've kind of knocked around at that one discussion session.
And I wasn't there.
Yes, Mr. Williams.
And I wasn't there, and I listened to it twice. I listened to it again because I thought maybe I missed something, so I listened to it again. But at any rate, what we can't afford to happen is what happened last time. At the last minute, with the utilities come big, and we put it in there without having ever put them in the estimates. And if our goal is to pave as many roads as we can, and I see making them eat it all, is part of the goal. If the goal is to pave as many roads, I've always thought that the goal is to enhance the lives of the citizens that live here. The fact is the same people are going to pay for it, whether it's their increased utility rate or if it's coming out of pennies. Actually, pennies we get some visitors that help pay for pennies, and that's one. And I've wrestled with it and thought and had to explain it before, but I guess that's why paying 100% makes sense to me. It's not because of the Dukes and the York Electrics and the City of Rock Hills, although it affects their rates too, and I don't want the rates to go up either. But Clover and even York County Sewer, we have a $2 million. We have a road that gets moved, and all of a sudden it costs $2 million to do it. And even if we only fund half of it, that's a $1 million hit to our capital fund, which is hard to swallow. And you got 3 different roads in the same place. So then it really taxes, and that's what was going on with some of these other utility systems. That's why I think that we should continue it, although I do, but to me, it goes back to what's the goal? If the goal is to pave as many roads, then we just make them pay for it. It is gonna take an education effort for the citizens to realize, because I guess when I'm sitting there, would I rather my electric bill go up for 20 years or have it come out of pennies temporarily when it caused it? I would rather pennies pay for it. So that's how I look at it. But you do pay more roads if you make them pay for it, I'll give you that.
That's a good argument. I don't want to be cynical, but I think your utility rate will go up either way. But this is what we're here for. Yes, sir, Mr. Winkler.
For me, and what we talked about, and if I'm wrong, please, Patrick or someone correct me, but I like the idea of sharing with them, which is kind of what prior rights is, which is the way the others have done it. We don't pay for all of it. They don't pay for all of it. It depends on what the right-of-way is and where the utilities are and that kind of thing. So in every project, we don't pay all of it. In every project, they don't pay all of it. It just depends on the prior rights. And that seems to be the way the majority of the counties do it, and that way, neither one of us is on the hook for all of it.
Well, if a utility company has prior rights, we pay for all of it.
Yeah.
But
Because the law requires
before or whether against, we pay for all of it. And that is the trick with paying for all of it, is holding your feet to the fire. Because that's, the couple of things you can do is say we only give you what the estimates are, but things happen. And the other thing is, the flip side is you estimated $2 billion, it only took one. Do we get to keep the difference? I wouldn't think so. So, there's, but we're all in this together, and hopefully we can figure out a way to do it together.
Yes, Mr. Roddey.
I want to go back and touch. I was actually at the meeting, and I thought it was a good idea to ask others to cover some of the costs. I know we kind of got burned on some underestimations and having to pay the full relocation costs throughout the whole projects. I do think they got to come to the table with something. That way we're allowed to stretch those pennies dollars a little further, especially when now looking at a maintenance component coming in on pennies 4. I think this will give us a little more opportunity to get to some more roads. At the same time, I don't think we can get by with throwing the cost totally back to them. It may not even be 50%, but we need to look at some assistance on these utilities. It may even be as low as 25%, but I think we need to get some skin in the game from the different municipalities and people when we have to relocate all these utilities. I don't think it's fair, because these are major projects that we're doing as a county, and we want to get the biggest bang for the buck, because let's face it, municipalities are not paving roads like they should be. Otherwise, our list wouldn't be so long. Our commitment to try to, and we're basically picking up a lot of slack for the different municipalities in York County, because their paving budget is so minuscule. That's why they send all their roads to York County, hoping that we pick them up. So, because they're not really paving as many roads. Now, they apply for grants and stuff throughout the state, but for their general fund funding, municipalities don't set aside nearly what they should be doing to pave their own roads. So they're not going to do it. They're hoping that we do it, and I think this is a way that we can kind of get to, especially with the maintenance component coming on board. So I think we have some options that we can go after. I don't think we can put them on the hook for as much as we think we can, but we need to get something, even if it's as low as 25% relocation costs. So I would support something along that line.
I'm just going down the line, Ms. Cox.
In the study that was conducted by the Citizen Committee, 30 to 40% of pennies 3 was used to pay for utility relocations and right-of-way. We decided, and I think the folks in the community have been very consistent in what they've expressed to folks, is that we don't want to do that anymore. The goal is truly to repave our existing roads and to make that a priority. And this is a situation where I do think the goal is to pave as many roads as we possibly can and to maximize the dollar. And so from what I could tell in the memo that was written, to me it articulated what I thought we agreed to as a council, as a group, that we were going to do what law required in terms of prior rights and pay those things and certainly estimate those costs. But that pennies 3 shouldn't necessarily be the only vehicle for paying for them, and that's certainly what I support.
I didn't see it proposed.
I think in the memo that was included with the packet, there was a.
Policy in the memo.
Yeah.
Proposed
Really?
Policy in the memo.
Mr.
Okay.
Johnson?
What she said.
There was,
I'm gonna go down the line and
Just
get
one
back to you, Ms. Love.
Okay, so I think that when the Pennies Commission is listening to what people want, they're listening to the municipalities. And I think the unincorporated areas are limited. I did make a presentation because I've got a very large unincorporated area of Lake Wiley, so I did make a presentation and felt like I was heard by the Pennies Commission. However, if that were not the case for some of your areas, then been paying for everything that municipality has asked for would seem unfair to me. And so I think they should ante up something, and maybe this is where percent comes in, but they should ante up something to let us know that they're just not looking for a free handout from the county, that they're gonna put something toward these roads also. When I went to the Clover's presentation, which was my first experience with the Pennies Commission, and I fully support the Pennies for Progress, everything that they asked for, I felt like, oh my gosh. I mean, of course, they're the town of Clover, and they're only asking for the things that the town of Clover. But if the road continued outside of that, what they were requesting stopped right there at the town limit. So when I went and made my presentation with a group of residents and someone from the Clover Town Council and a couple of the school superintendent and some student drivers, we extended what they had asked for. We agreed with everything that they had asked for, and we extended those roads from the town into the unincorporated areas of Lake Wiley. And so I feel like that, you know, if somebody's going to commit to something, you'd like to see a little bit from them. And I'm not for giving handouts to these. I mean, we're the county and they're the cities, and I believe we have to work together. But you know, if they would step up first, then they would get a lot more from my perspective.
So you want everybody to have skin in the game?
Everybody needs to have skin in the game.
Mr. Williams?
yeah, no, actually, yeah, and I would agree with Ms. Cox. It does reflect what was said at the workshop. Like I said, I wasn't there. I appreciate you letting me say what I thought. The only other thing I meant to say before and forgot was we forget that we started Pennies to fix state roads. We're fixing state roads. So now we're talking about cities not doing them, but we are doing state roads for the state, and we're doing it so well, they're not calling our state reps anymore. They're calling us and talking and complaining about state roads. I just want to remind that we started this because the state wasn't doing their job, and that's why I say I hate to punish our citizens, but I see. I mean, I understand, and there needs to be a way to hold them accountable, one way or another. But that was the only other point I wanted to make, was that we started this to do state roads.
I do think that you make a very good point, and I think that once we get our repaving list together, we don't want to make it easier. We want to make sure that we are getting as many dollars as we can from the state. And I think in that respect, when the list is compiled on repaving, we need to make sure that that's run by our folks at DOT so that we're not duplicating their list, and that the roads we're putting on there aren't ones that are already on their queue to be paved and redone within that time frame. That certainly does not help the folks in our community.
Yeah, because Faulkner Road is one of the roads that Robert had mentioned, and part of it is in his district, and part of it's in my district. And you've got 40% of it, and I've got 60% of it. But you know, and then I see it tonight on the board, and it's already in the works to be done. And I believe that's one of the ones that was possibly on my recommendation to Pennies. So that overlap concerns me a little bit. I want to know that I'm asking for things that have not already been asked for, already been approved by somebody else.
Mr. Johnson?
And just to kind of piggyback on what Mr. Williams and Ms. Cox said, certainly the state is going to shirk its responsibility the moment we start paying for anything. My favorite example of that is the Welcome to South Carolina, York County sign now out near Carowinds, in which the grass was above the sign at one point. And I asked the county to go cut the grass, and the response was, well, we ever cut the grass once, we'll have to cut it every time because the state will quit cutting that grass. Well, we cut that grass every time now, and the state no longer cuts that grass because I just couldn't drive past it anymore watching the grass grow up 5 feet tall across the sign. Drove me crazy. But that is true, and it's the slippery slope of putting 30% of all of our pennies money into resurfacing. Because I can promise you, once the state figures out that we're in the resurfacing game, there's going to be one less dollar they spend in York County. And at some point, And and while these things are necessary, and I believe in these things, at least by trying to create this policy, as we've discussed it with prior rights on utility relocations, at least we're trying to keep more money to doing what we think is our number one priority, which is building and repairing roads, and in this next pennies group. So I'm excited by that, but certainly, given a chance, the state certainly will not step up to the plate.
Mr. Chairman, I got one
Mr.
more.
Roddey.
Since we went down with this conversation, is there, and to mention about some possible duplication or intended duplication, is there a way we could have our engineer reach out to SCDOT to get what they're looking at doing over the next couple of years that way? So if we're looking to add roads or something, we can see what their intentions are?
We're working with Mr. McCarter on that. We're going to send him our list. The state can't really give a 2-year or 3-year projection because they don't know what funding they're going to get and what's next on the list, but we'll send them our proposed resurfacing list. They'll look over it and see if they have anything, if it's high on their list or anything like that, so we don't put funding towards it and they go put funding towards it. And so we're working with them.
We should ask them what roads they're doing first for the next 2 or 3 years before we send them our list.
And I have one more comment
Yes,
about
Mr. Roddey.
pennies forward. When we get into the resurfacing or the maintenance part, I don't think that should be tied to that's not gonna be tied to just state roads, will it? You know, so if we wanted to go off the beaten path to do some resurfacing maintenance, we don't have to do state roads with the pennies. Yeah, because I think that would really take them off the hook for a lot more versus what we think we can accomplish throughout York County if that money's not tied to state roads on the resurfacing and maintenance portion that we're looking to put in.
Yeah.
We could put the list together.
It could be on any road.
County.
It can be on any road, but the road has to be listed on the referendum, so.
Right.
We can't decide 3 years from now.
When we turn in those resurfacing and pavings, I was wanting to make sure that it didn't have to be a state road on the resurfacing and maintenance part.
Yeah.
So as long
Doesn't
as
have
it's
to.
open up.
State, city, county.
Right.
No,
okay.
As long as it's public right away, it can't
Whatever
be a
people
private.
will vote for,
Right.
that's true.
But that kind of brings me back to the question that started the first time we talked about pennies for and maintenance added to it. Michael, one more time, do they have to specify in the resolution that the voters vote on what particular roads for maintenance have to be done?
There's going to be a list of roads for resurfacing.
Is it going to be a catch-all list or just particular roads? Or?
It's going to be, I don't know that that's refined yet, but it should be a list of roads in order of priority, perhaps. There are ways to phrase it where priority can be determined after the list is approved, at least in one jurisdiction that was performed. But the specified project, the road, needs to be on the ballot question.
Right, so, but the way it's going to be done, we'll probably have the flexibility to go where we need to go with maintenance?
There is an approved option to do that in another jurisdiction, so that's one way in groupings of certain roads, as a set that can then have a priority determined on an as-needed basis in that section of roadways.
Patrick, you want to add anything? It's
Uh,
kind of your domain.
As long as my understanding is the road still has to be listed on the referendum itself, yes.
So
So we can't pick a road 3 years from now that wasn't on the referendum.
All right. So Bill, somebody? Yes?
I guess I'm just getting all this stuff coming in my head now. So if we're gonna have to list each individual road that we intend to resurface or perform maintenance on, and if we happen to do it in a priority ranking, you know, that's gonna be a pretty extensive list, I would think. And and just off the top of my head, just thinking if we could possibly list those roads by districts, priorities by district, because if you list them, if you have a 1 through a 50 list, how do you, I mean, that's going to
Simplify.
It'll be simplified if there's a way we could break it out to say priority list for District 1, priority list for District 2, because I would hate to see where, you know, you read down through 20 roads and all of a sudden you get to a road and you read over half the list and now you finally see a road from your district. It's kind of like, well, it's going to take forever, but if it's broken out by districts, then the voters and the public will know by districts what's kind of a priority for the maintenance. I think that'll probably be easily more easily read, because I'm not gonna, in District 4, I'm not gonna go read what's the priority in District 7. I'm not gonna go to Fort Mill's list and read what's priority there. As a voter, I would be going to look to see, what are you gonna be doing in my district? What are some of the priority? Because that's the ultimate determination as to how people in my district is gonna vote, how people in Fort Mill's gonna vote, because Fort Mill probably doesn't care if this particular road in District 4 is paved or on the list. I think we can probably.
Michael, does that
Consider-
sound like a reasonable potential?
I have to examine that a little bit.
Okay. Mr.
And I was just
Winkler.
gonna say, I met with Patrick and Dean both this morning about C funds and other stuff, and they did tell me that they're working on, the list we were given the other day was their first initial list of everybody that had put in any road on the Penny's request, whether website, meeting, whatever, and they're cleaning that list up now, and they are removing some that are duplicates and that kind of thing. So, I assume there'll be a new list that we'll all be able to see once that's done, but.
Mr. Johnson.
I want to let Mr. Roddey know that I certainly care what road's going to be repaved in your district. I will say this, I do agree, though, I think we do need to show some priority, and this is in fact a conversation that I've had with other council members, and what I'd like to see us try to do is, and this is just my thoughts, is create almost an A, a B, and a C category in which you say, here are our A roads. These are the roads that we know we want to get attention to, with an emphasis on county roads in A. And by prioritizing them within these subgroupings, it encourages the state to look at some of their roads and say, ooh, that's all the way down on that C list. And maybe those are some of the worst roads there are that are state-maintained roads, so the state realizes we're not coming to their rescue for these roads. We'll put them on our list because we know they need to be fixed, but they're a long way off from happening with our list. To try to incentivize the state to do the right thing, because certainly given the opportunity, we all know they're not going to. And so I'd like to see, if there's a way to kind of create some subcategories of saying, here's our first priority, here's our second priority, and this is what we'll get to. And maybe some of those in poor shape need to be, but the state needs to step up and do its job. That is what's in that C grouping, so that it's not the taxpayer of York County who's once again picking up the tab for the state.
Ms. Cox.
Just to kind of hopefully help us get to a point we can wrap this up tonight was our utility and right-of-way policy, which you're going to prepare something for us to consider at the next council meeting, an actual ordinance. Is it an ordinance that we're required, or is it just policy?
It'll just be a policy for y'all to approve. Yes.
What we talked about at our last workshop, though, was to pull the council members together once the C funding opportunity came, which is now, and let's have that conversation again, because remember, we've been told we can't directly speak to the commission, but what we can do is as a council, provide information to Patrick and use Patrick as our mediator to provide the information municipalities have been providing to them, and make sure that, I think we need to plan that, and I'll be happy as
And that was
Penny's
the
chair.
point of me attending with Dean the meetings with each of y'all, to
Right.
get any feedback that y'all may have for the commission.
But I'm saying I think we need to have a collective group meeting before you deliver that message, unless the council doesn't feel like we need to do that.
I would like to do it.
That sounds reasonable.
Whether it's through the Pennies Committee or full council, I think it needs to be done. I think definitely need to have that.
So maybe we can work on that, Bill. Boy, this is going to be one heck of a ballot resolution thing. I can't wait to read how you word this fella. But with everything being said, I'm kind of hearing the majority still agreeing with what we said originally. Does this?
So are we still looking at completely prior rights, or any? I know Councilman Roddey mentions the percentages, or the consensus still?
I think we said prior rights and estimate the costs and make sure that we at least know what they are. But because what the problem is what the message that we were sending to, or that the only thing that we could do was, draft a policy for the commission to entertain, and we don't know what projects they are. So, I mean, they know which big projects are being considered, and isn't that what we discussed at our last meeting? That was the concern?
I'm a prior rights
We didn't want to have
but I think it's inherent on this council
That's-
to stand our ground.
I think
Once we say prior rights, they can't come back and say, oh, that's $2 million, we don't have $2 million. we're either gonna say, this is the line, and no one crosses it.
Well, what
It can't
they-
be a,
Right.
let's come, that's why,
What they-
there's 3 things from the last pennies going over, and 8 from the ones before that. That's why we don't complete projects.
Well, that's what happened at the 11th hour, where they said, stuck with prior rights, and then a bunch of utilities came up and said, we're gonna tell our people that if they vote for it, their rates are going up, and it's the county's fault, and all that. And then at the last minute, it was agreed that was bad publicity, and it might even fail. So that's why it was passed. So it's not, the prior rights thing, I guess, is not after the resolution. We can figure it out after, if it passes, it's really easy to figure it out after it. If they fail it,
If you don't
that's
account
another
for
thing.
it, you gotta account, if you don't account for it, we don't want it to pass.
My
Mr.
question
Winkler.
on that is,
Right, yeah, well, I say, if you think, I guess that's what it is. If you think it's worth killing the whole program to stick with prior rights, then.
If utilities are willing to kill pennies, the best thing that ever happened to York County over this, then that means the utilities don't have a serious commitment to economic development in this area, because economic development requires good roads, and which is gonna broaden the tax base, it's gonna help everybody. And these utilities are in the business of selling to massive consumers like industrial. So it makes no logical sense to cut off your nose to spite your face when I make money by selling to residential homes. Well, residential homes aren't gonna happen here if the road systems are terrible. They're not going, industrial's not gonna move here. I'm not saying they're bluffing, and maybe somebody will come out and say it, but I would certainly frown upon any utility or any group that came out against pennies based on the fact that the county is trying to build more roads than we are trying to relocate utilities.
The problem, I guess, that we have is that there are some utility companies that are in the utility business that are making a profit and generating money from utilities. There are some utility companies that are in the water providing business and the sewer providing business, and they're just trying to do what their citizens want them to do. Those are the ones that are gonna hurt. And those are the ones that don't care as much about economic development because it's not coming there anyway. But that's, and it's just like everything else.
And I'll get to Mr. Winkler finally, but just to point, this is the argument that I was going to point to Mr. Shanahan to say, do you want to speak? Because I think what Mr. Williams just said is pretty much what Kevin or you or both of you had reservations about going down the road we initially selected at our last discussion, but I think the council's getting pretty clear.
I agree. I agree with Councilman Williams. I think there's a good possibility that these folks, and I've been working with them for a couple of years, and we've talked not about this individual, but the things they try to get money for and the way they go about it. I think they will probably come out and say, and we'll see if it's a bluff, as Councilman Johnson said, but I think they're gonna say, we're gonna tell our folks that the millage rate will go up if they do it. We're gonna tell our folks that the fees or the cost of services will go up if we do it. And then what do you do when you get a city? I guess you can write something in that says, you know what, I know this road's on the list, but we just don't have the money right now.
Yeah, and I know when we were talking, I pretty much reflected what Mr. Johnson said, so I won't add to what's been said, Mr. Winkler.
I know we're trying to wrap this up, so I'll try to make it quick, but my thought is there's probably one entity that will give us an issue with this. And that entity will be getting roads paved if this passes. And they'll be, as Councilman Johnson said, be able to serve more, do more, if not. But I go back to, if this is the way that most other counties do it, do all of the utilities campaign against it in all the other counties because it still passes over there? Or are they just calling a bluff because the previous council chickened out and blinked at the last minute and they're trying to call our bluff again? Because if they campaign against it in all the other counties and it still passes, then, and if they're just bluffing and they don't campaign against it, it still passes. So I have a hard time just bending to their whim when everybody else, the majority of other people do it that way, and I think we need to have some more.
Although a lot of counties don't pass this stuff. I mean, sir?
Say Greenville County.
Right, now, that's what I was thinking of. But I think the will of the council's been heard as far as the majority. Do you need anything? Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Patrick. Next item, council to consider award of RFP 2396 regarding professional services for the study of architectural finishes and plaster analysis at historic Brattonsville to Keystone Preservation Group of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, for a total amount not to exceed $78,670.
Move to approve.
Somebody?
Second.
We're on 19.
Discussion? No discussion? I'm trying to talk slowly in case somebody's trying to think, but if there is no discussion, question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider rejection of all bids received regarding bid number 2397 for the purchase of 14 Scott SCBA air packs for use by the Bethesda Fire Department.
Move to approve.
Just, you said second?
Say it louder.
So soft-spoken.
Hearing needs to hear.
Bless our heart. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider award of bid number 2404 regarding the purchase of a 2017 81,000-pound terminal tractor for use by the York County Solid Waste Disposal Department to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Advantage Truck Center of Charlotte, for a total cost of $112,430.16.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider award of bid number 2405 regarding the purchase of a 2017 rear tipper refuse truck for use by the Solid Waste Collection and Recycling Department to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Carolina International of Columbia, for a total cost of $119,227.41.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Next item. Council to consider award of bid number 2406 regarding the purchase of a 2017 4x4 dual-wheel 18,500-pound truck for use by the York County Road Maintenance Department to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Dick Smith Ford of Columbia, for a total cost of $57,734.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider award of bid number 2409 regarding the processing and hauling of wood and yard waste debris at the county landfill to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Farmers Mulch and Rock Incorporated of Dobson, North Carolina, in the amount of $34.99 per ton.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ms.
So I
Love.
know more about this now than I ever really needed to know, but I did do a little checking around just because I'm new, and I thought it was interesting in seeing the estimates. And after talking to David Harmon and Kevin Madden and a couple other people, I just think it's a shame that this is not going local. But I also understand that it's the fault of the people who give a bid that might be higher when it could be lower. So I think it's an example of where someone who's bidding needs to be very competitive, especially if they're local and they're bidding against somebody. I would rather see these dollars be kept in York County and, quite frankly, in the state. And it can't happen in this case because the bids and they're close. So it's kind of disappointing to me. That's so. Just putting the word out there that if you're going to bid something for York County and you're local, you need to be very competitive.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments? Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item is consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, committee reports. Justice and Public Safety. Honorable Chairwoman Christy Cox.
The committee met Monday, January 23rd. We considered the goals and missions of the fire service and developed an assessment of the fire service, which we provided to our legal counsel and to county management. And we have a follow-up meeting now scheduled on March 2nd to go through that information. And we've set a schedule to try and keep things, to track our progress, since this area was one of the top items for the council in terms of getting a handle of it. So that's what we discussed.
Thank you, ma'am. Next committee is Public Works Committee, the Honorable Bump Roddey.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Public Works Committee met on February the 2nd last week, and we were in discussion about how to finance the capital improvements that need to be done for our ward. And so we discussed 3 financing options that was quite interesting. Just to kind of sum it up real quick, I think the first option was a small increase in borrowing more up front. The second option, which I think is where we'll fall out, where we'll kind of meet in the middle on, is where we increase the rates, looking at between 8 and 12% for a 3-year period, 8 to 12% annually over a 3-year period. That brings down what we have to borrow initially. And the third option was just no borrowing, just raise the rates about 45%, and it's all end-user funded, so to speak. So we got an interesting packet that kind of spells it out. And I think this originated in the Finance and Operations Committee, in which I think we were trying to kind of coordinate and get back with a joint meeting with that committee to hash out the financing options. So if any of you haven't received one of the packets that we got at the Public Works Committee, I think if you get that before we do bring the matter to full council, I think you have a real good understanding of what's probably the best financing option. We're looking at probably about $162 million to improve the existing infrastructure. So if you can get your hands on any of that information, I think you'll be prepared to make a real good informed decision on what we're looking at achieving with the financing.
Can you get me a hard copy of that? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Next item, Finance and Operations, Honorable Chairman Michael Johnson.
I was wondering if you were
You got it right first time.
I had noticed everybody else got it. We had our meeting was today at 5 o'clock. The Sheriff, Kevin Tolson, came and he talked to us about the grant request that this council approved tonight. We also had a discussion regarding new boards and commissions and the membership process, and the process by which the council would remove someone for cause if they, due to our new ethics rules, someone violates that ethics rule, what's the process that we're going to go about removing them? And Mr. Kendry explained that it would come before the finance. We would make a recommendation that it come to full council for a vote on whether or not that we believe that rose to a level of for cause. And then, of course, Mr. Madden also came before us and talked about option 2 for about 30 seconds as we were trying to run to the transportation meeting. We voted on numerous boards and commissions. I'll run them down for you real quickly. We approved Brittany Brown for York County Forever in the ex officio position. Strauss Schipple for District 3 on the Rock Hill York County CVB. Ronald Miller for the at-large on the Rock Hill York County CVB. Barbara Omer for the at-large position on Keep York County Beautiful. Albert Hanlon for the York County Natural Gas Board. We deferred all decisions regarding the Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee, mainly, and I'll just give you all an idea, under that ordinance, the majority of that committee must live in the district and which gives the largest contribution to it. District 1 contributes about 77 cents of every dollar that goes to accommodations tax in York County. And I've been making some appeals to have people apply, and I've got about 8 or 9 people who are going to apply. And rather than have our normal one person applies, they get the job, we wanted to actually have a couple to compare. And so we're going to wait a couple of weeks to make sure all those get in. On the Catawba Regional Council of Governments, Wes Spurrier for the Clovertown Council slot. The Zoning Board of Appeals, Albert Quarles from District 6. We did also deferred the decision as to District 2. We approved Misty Lehman for the Catawba Regional Workforce Investment Board, Sandy Andrews, and Stacy Moore also on that board.
Those were at
They don't, yeah, those are all, entire boards at large.
Okay.
Up for the York County Library Board, Douglas Cunningham from District 3. And there was
Flint Hill.
there was a lot more. It was a long night of these. And we deferred on filling the term for the Flint Hill Fire Tax District Board. And I did not say at the time, and I apologize. I would ask that the applicants for that position be required to fill out the new form as opposed to the old one. That is why I deferred that. I meant to say it at committee, I just did not. But I would ask that they fill out a new form, and then they can be considered our next meeting.
Thank you, the Honorable Michael Johnson.
I like that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
excuse the
sir.
interruption. Council would be kind enough to return to number 23, new business. It's been brought to my attention that there was a Scrivener's error, and the correct award amount should be $54,734, not the $57,000 that was expressed in the agenda item. So if council could be kind enough to just move to amend the award amount for that item.
So what was the figure again?
$54,734.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes, sir.
move that we amend to $54,734 the bid for bid number 2406 regarding the purchase of a 2017 4x4 dual wheel for use by the York County Road Maintenance Department.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you, sir. Now we have the non-agenda comments of any council member. I'm sure at this pace of time that there's probably none.
Oh, I've got one.
Great. Yes, ma'am,
Yes,
Ms. Cox.
so glad.
Honorable Ms. Cox.
To me, this council has done a very good job of taking over two of the three things, and taking some aggressive action and some needed action in both the economic development and the fire service areas. These are, remember, we had those three topics that we said we really wanted to focus on so that we could take some action. The one area that I don't feel like that we've done, and will get by us quickly if we don't, is the growth management. And that's probably one that's going to require some action by us to be proactive, because it's not one of those sexy topics that comes up without you having to do something with it. So what I would ask this council to do is to request that we put this on the agenda at least once a month, and have it be simply, how are we addressing our growth management strategic goal? And I think that, I have some ideas, but I think it would be helpful if we put that on the agenda at least once a month to make sure that we're making some headway on that.
Do you think that would be more appropriate than once every quarter?
Well, it's a top 3 strategic goal, and I don't know that once a month is.
I don't know that it's not a bad idea to do all of them. And even a step further, in our summary, explain how this, whatever item we're talking about goes to accomplish one of those goals. But yeah, I mean, if those 5 are strategic goals, then, I mean, if we just pick 5 strategic goals so we can pick 5 goals, if they're truly important, we'd want to talk about them every.
So, Bill, you good? Yes, sir. Okay. Any other comments, non-agenda items, new comments, I should say? Great, okay. Do we have a motion for executive session?
Yes, sir. I move we go into executive session to discuss a contractual matter for potential land acquisition and a personnel matter involving the county manager's annual evaluation.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We'll be back by 5 minutes to 8. We now have come out of executive session. There's one action item.
Make a motion to authorize the purchase of property located at 1793 York Highway, as discussed in executive session.
Have a second? Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. If there's no further business, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.